Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers got spanked in the opener against Golden State. What did they learn from watching film? We'll tell you next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, no matter where you get your podcasts. This one's always going to be free for you and not locked behind a paywall. That doesn't matter, Andy, if you're getting it off iTunes, if you're getting it off Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, if you want to watch the magic happen, you hop over to Locked On Lakers on YouTube, where over 36,000 subscribers are standing with their arms crossed and tapping their feet and expecting the Lakers to show them something a little better on Friday, or they're just going to turn this car around, Andy. They don't care. People were, I don't remember, like the Lakers have won like one season opener in the last like 17 years. It seems like they always lose the season opener. People were
particularly against Golden State. I believe they've lost 4 season openers against Golden State in succession.
Like they were, Lakers Nation was an extra level of livid after that opening night loss on Tuesday. And, so they came in to, with a lot to work on practice on Wednesday. And I think everybody will be excited to hear they did in fact practice. They didn't just go, don't worry, we've got it figured out. We'll get into that in a second, Andy. Probably the most important thing, you were there in El Segundo on Wednesday. The first and foremost thing, they got a health update on Luka Dončić.
Yeah, we weren't not given much. It's really not even entirely clear what happened with Luka late in the fourth quarter against Golden State. The internet doctors have seemed to decide that it was a groin injury. But JJ Redick,
Luka talked a little bit about how he felt it in his hip, which can also mean kind of a groin thing.
And Luka, after the game, said he did not think it was going to be serious. And JJ said, quote, he seems to be fine. I don't think it's anything major. He got some treatment this morning, and we didn't practice long, but he was a participant in practice. I did not sense that for the time being, anybody is particularly concerned about this. We'll see if Thursday, they are practicing on Thursday. We'll see if Luka is a full participant in Thursday, what the practice even entails. But for the time being, nobody seems particularly concerned. So I am going to, and I know this is risky with this organization's track record when it comes to transparency and health, I'm going to take them at their word.
Oh, Lucy with your football.
Well, there's no point in me misinforming our audience, trying to speculate what Luka has. Again, especially considering we've barely gotten any details of the general, it's beyond the general vicinity.
It would have been better to just not see the little limpy moment or whatever. But until you have evidence that he is in fact not fine, we can work with the idea that he's going to be okay. The other big storyline, which we will get to over the course of this show, is related to LeBron James and his body language and behavior on the sidelines in Tuesday's opener. He was noticeably sort of distant, aloof, unemotional, uncommunicative,
statuesque, almost embalmed. He barely moved. I mean, he really
honestly, if you'd painted him silver or something like that, you could put a hat in front of him and people would have come by and thrown change.
Or they could have borrowed it from Madame Tussauds, the LeBron wax figure.
That's true. Do we know for sure that was LeBron and not just wax?
Well, if it was, it has LeBron's new glasses.
It was weird. He was still there 2 hours after the game was ended. He was still sitting on the bench on his big chair,
but melting.
I do like it when the Lakers get to use the big chair, the Phil Jackson setup that they clearly have kept around for anybody who has back pain. and LeBron James got to use it.
Well, but look, the Lakers also, it came out of nowhere. They almost brought back Phil in 2012. You never know.
You know what? Let's just keep the chair.
Yeah,
it's a big arena. We've got the storage. Just keep the chair.
I mean, I know JJ just got extended, but this organization, they'll can anybody's ass. Doesn't matter.
But they also want JJ to be their coach for decades. He may need the chair eventually. So we'll get to LeBron in a moment here, but the chatter about what the hell happened on Tuesday and what can be done to fix it was an interesting one. You got a bunch of player response, but I know like the biggest reaction that I saw, both from professional analysts and online analysts, social media fans and stuff like that, two basic categories. Bench is still a problem. Athleticism is still a problem. We can touch on both. To me, the athleticism thing is really interesting because I agree. The Lakers are still not a particularly, by NBA standards, athletic team. But they weren't terribly athletic last year either. And at least during the regular season, we're pretty successful. So that to me is an interesting one to kind of parse.
Yeah, except for the fact that last year they were more, the degree of athleticism that they had last year was boosted up in no small part by Anthony Davis and Max Christie.
Let me be clear. When I talk about these things, I talk totally post-trade.
Okay.
The team that they had post-trade.
I would say that's too small of a sample size. I mean, and most of the foundational building was done with AD and Max on this. Like they spent more of the season with those guys than without them.
Sure.
Jordan Goodwin for that team was on the upper half of athleticism. He's not on the team anymore. LeBron was 1 year younger with 100% less sciatica.
Well,
than he has right now.
He played. I mean,
but I'm just saying, like I think it is a fair criticism. I think because if you look at, Jackson Hayes is one of the more athletic guys, but he's a holdover. Jared Vanderbilt, one of the more athletic guys, he's a holdover. DeAndre Ayton is not unathletic for his size. I don't consider him plodding, but he's not super athletic. You don't get an athleticism upgrade from either Marcus Smart or Jake LaRavia. Bronny's one of the better athletes, but he's not ready. Dalton Connect is on the upper half of athleticism on this team, but he does not seem ready. And Adu Thero might be the best athlete on this team, and he's not even healthy enough to play.
Right.
So I do think the team is less athletic than last year.
I don't know if here's the thing. I don't know if they're less athletic. I don't think they're necessarily way more athletic. My question, they're
definitely not more athletic this year.
The question becomes how much is that going to
Rui's one of the more athletic guys, but again, holdover.
Sure, but the people they lost, essentially DFS in terms of the rotation players. DFS isn't a leap off the page athlete.
No,
either.
But again, that's not. We are framing this differently. I'm looking at the entirety of last season because I think that matters in terms of.
It's fine. Yeah,
you can't say they won 50 games but not count 60% of the season.
I understand that, but all I'm saying is they had some success post trade as well with essentially a lot of these guys. And so my question is, and one of the things that I think is interesting to think about is they were able to compensate for that and win games last year, whether they were, more athletic before the trade or after. They still had some good success after the trade. This year, obviously, it is still very noticeable. I don't know if that's something that people thought was fixed in the offseason or not. I don't necessarily agree with you. I don't necessarily why they would think the Lakers got athletic relative to last year. The question is, are they going to be good enough at the other stuff to be able to compensate for the lack of athleticism?
I think part of what makes this, if you're talking about this specific reaction, the athleticism question in reaction to last night's game, I think it is because they lost to a Warriors team that may be more athletic than them, but is not, I think, considered consensus upper half athleticism in the league. And they looked at times super athletic compared to the Lakers. So
what do you like? What's it going to look like when you see Oklahoma City and Houston?
I think that is what informs much of this reaction. It's who they lost. They lost to one of the only teams in the league that has like more age-related injury concern stuff than them. And that team looked more athletic than them.
So yeah, that's why I bring up the question, because is it different this year? Are they going to be punished potentially more this year because maybe other skill sets don't match up? Or was it kind of one game? They did address some of those questions in the film, which we'll get to in the next segment as well. So that couple other things that people were upset about, we'll get to all of it next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you are still overpaying for wireless, and let's be honest, you probably are, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Say yes to making the switch and getting the premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talking text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number in contacts. That's great. I could never learn a new number. You're getting the same quality service you had before, but for a fraction of the price. And then you are up and running in minutes. So you're ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Upfront payment of $45 is required. It's the equivalent of $15 a month. And a limited new customer offer for just 3 months only. Speeds may be slow, above 35 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Locked On Lakers is also brought to you by Rougiette. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. Everybody's heard them. It's stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. It's fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. They make it easy to get started. You just connect to a board-certified doctor, 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And if you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. It's fast, simple, and private, all handled by real doctors. And it gives you the confidence you need for the moments that matter, as they say. So visit Rougiette, R-U-G-I-E-T. I'm getting very French. .com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNBA so that they know that we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses, start making moves. So I mean, like, the reason I didn't bring that up to either defend the idea that the Lakers are more athletic than maybe we're giving them credit for, because they are not, or say that, because they weren't terribly athletic last year and still were successful, that it might not hurt them this year. The differences between one year to the next are always something that's kind of fascinating to me. If you have a different skill set, that are kind of around something that wasn't as much of a problem or a weakness that you could overcome, can become much more of an issue. Obviously, some of this is, and people are going to hate hearing it, because it's both, it sounds like an excuse and it's also unsolvable until he comes back. Some of this is just, they don't have a huge member of their rotation while LeBron is out. And that's just the way it is. They have to figure out how to compensate. And so that gets into, I think, some of the stuff they were talking about, Andy, at practice on Wednesday. Like, what are the correctables there? And it was interesting to me that when you heard them talking about it, they didn't seem to think necessarily that what was on the film was a total disaster.
No, actually, the consensus was pretty much, not that they watched themselves on film and thought, you know what, we were a hell of a lot better than it felt in the moment.
Good.
But what they didn't feel like was it was as disastrous as it felt like in the moment, and that there was a lot there that was more within their control to have fixed during the game and certainly moving forward. Here's Jared Vanderbilt talking about it.
That it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. There's a couple things that we can clean up on that could easily change the way of the game, and it's something things that are controllable. And even though we got down a lot in that third, we fought back and cleaned up some stuff. But just trying to put a game plan together for 48 minutes. But some of those things are just super minimal that could change the outcome of a game. So just lock it in and focusing on those.
And then Gabe Vincent shared a lot of similar sentiments as well.
I think there was a lot of good things to take away. I think there were some glaring things that we can work on, which in some ways is encouraging. You find things that end up being 12, 14 points, and it's like, oh, we can clean that up with one conversation. That game looks a lot different. So some revelations we found, some things that we can clean up. But game 1 of 82, we just got to get better each game.
And some of those more specific items that we've got more clips, but start getting long after a while. But JJ and Vando talked about marking the right guys when they're getting back in transition. Like JJ thought they did a pretty good job getting back in transition to protect the lane, but marking the shooters in transition was something that they said they did not do a good job of at all. Hence, some of the shots that, say, Buddy Hield or a lesser shooter like Jonathan Kuminga had, and they were hitting those shots, much less someone like Steph. They all acknowledged, and this was something you brought up, Brian, before the game, that like the Warriors are such an unusual team to play against, and their style is different than 95 to 100% of the league, that they're kind of an anomaly to prepare for. Mm-hmm. So to some degree, they are an anomaly in terms of what you can and can't take away from it. But, they felt like taking better care of the ball, really being careful right now with what they're doing, because by everybody's own admission, the screen and roll synergy between Luka and DeAndre Ayton, or Austin Reeves and DeAndre Ayton, it is still very much a work in progress. So they have to try to be extra precise to offset the lack of chemistry that currently they're dealing with right now. So there was a lot they felt like was in their control to do better with moving forward.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, where can you make up? Like, where do you make up for these weaknesses? How do you avoid your the margin for error that may already be that is really essentially created by not having great athletes or not having great defenders all up and down the floor, a bunch of two-way guys. You're not Houston, you're not Oklahoma City. What can you do instead? And like those kinds of things, making sure you pick up the right guy, making sure like that attention to detail, the cohesion that comes with it becomes critical. And that a lot of these questions, like honestly, and I think a lot of the frustration with how they looked on Tuesday comes out of this idea, and I know it's something you've been leaning on, like that they just didn't maximize the preseason. And like I can't say had they played all their starters one more game, like Tuesday wouldn't have happened. I don't know if they were looked materially different, but they still could have done it. Like you start to stack those things up, and like, did you get as far along as you could have gotten, even if it still would have looked like there were still things left to do?
It's interesting. Rui, I think unprompted after the game last night, noted that it was only the second time that the full rotation has played in a game atmosphere together. I believe it's something Austin brought up as well. And Vando, in talking with us, unprompted brought up that idea as well. So I just asked Vando point blank, like, are you guys behind where you thought you would be or should be coming out of training camp? And I thought his answer was interesting, because it was an attempt, I think, at either a no or downplaying the concept, but just the pause before even answering my question, I thought was pretty revealing.
I mean, I wouldn't say behind, but we added new players regardless. So I think it was going to take time for everybody to gel together. Playing with a guy like, DA and him playing with guys like Luka and AR, it's an adjustment for everybody. So I think regardless of if we all played preseason or not, it still was going to take a little bit of time for us to all gel and get that cohesiveness. So, like I said, each and every game, that's our goal, to try to build and keep gaining chemistry throughout everybody. And, like I said, we still got 81 more to go, so just to keep building every quadrant of the season.
I get a really strong sense that even if they don't feel like they are dramatically behind the 8 ball, they don't feel like they're in front of the 8 ball either. And I really do feel like they don't think
standing next to it.
Right, they are at best standing alongside the 8 ball. And I get a pretty strong sense that they thought, if nothing else, they would be further along from training camp than where they are right now.
And whether that's means frustration with how training camp was handled, or just frustration at the circumstances that may have caused training camp to be handled that way,
or both,
a little bit of both. We'll see. There is more to talk about with this, obviously, and obviously the Lakers are welcoming a very challenging team to the arena on Friday in the Minnesota Timberwolves. But we got to talk about this LeBron thing because everybody else is, for sure. So we'll do that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Skims. I am somebody who is super picky about underwear. I only like boxer briefs. They have to have a certain perfect, can't be too tight, can't be too loose. It's like Goldilocks. I want them just right. So when I heard that we at Locked On could get some Skims men's underwear, my first thought was, I had no idea they made men's underwear. And then the second thought was, am I going to like them? Because again, I'm picky. And the answer is, oh yeah. I tried both the 3-inch and the 5-inch boxer briefs, and they're both awesome. They are super comfortable. They're soft. They don't bunch up, and they look great. Your partner's going to love them. And whether you're working out or just laying around the house in your underwear, they are the most comfortable, reliable pair you will ever own. And lightweight. It's like you're wearing nothing at all. It's like you're going commando, people. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and at Skims stores. Now, this is the most important part, even more than the underwear's comfort. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show, Locked On Lakers, in the drop-down menu that follows.
We noted it in the first segment. LeBron was not, I would say, an active participant in the festivities on Tuesday. Look, he
wasn't an active anything. he was barely an active sitter.
He was conserving energy. like a hibernating snake or squirrel or bear or something. And look, all of us who have had back pain know sometimes you got to sit really still.
Oh yeah.
But that said, this was a major talking point from everyone who was inside the arena. It was noticed by members of the media. It was noticed by fans. It was just noticed.
Brian, just real quick, Brian and I were not at the game on Tuesday, but I was at practice on Wednesday. And without naming names, because none of this was on the record, I can say that the reporters who were at the game, this was something they noticed as well. There was debate amongst people about how much this means anything at all in terms of LeBron's headspace, but everybody was in agreement. Dude was barely moving and seemed disengaged from what was happening.
Now, or I should say Wednesday at practice, JJ was asked about it and, said LeBron, asked about, LeBron's engagement level, watching film and all these other things, and said LeBron was active in the film session and was communicative and, talking about stuff they need to improve and offering his expertise and all of that stuff. Now, I was not in the film session. I don't know that part. JJ is smart enough to answer that question with, of course, LeBron was actively, communicating with his teammates and this, that, and the other. I don't think it's going to put the issue to bed. What will put the issue to bed is LeBron, getting some steps in on Friday and in subsequent games until he's back on the floor.
Yeah, look, this is one of those things where obviously LeBron's body language and body inactivity caught a lot of people's attention. Flip side is if LeBron was moving around too much, people would be questioning whether or not the sciatica was real, because we're already seeing a lot of people questioning whether or not he is just faking an injury in order to show the team what life is like without him, because, hey, you didn't want to give me an extension. Why don't you take a look at the post-LeBron era for the Lakers in real time right now? For the record, Brian and I have both said we do not think that's happening. We think the man has sciatica, which is believable because he's pushing 41 and has been playing now 23 seasons of NBA basketball, plus enough playoff basketball to count for like another 10-year career. It's a miracle. It's a miracle he hasn't gotten.
And he just took up golf.
Right. It's a miracle that he
gives people sciatica.
But he has not been fighting sciatica since the moment he became a Laker.
Yes.
But nonetheless, this is the conspiracy theory. Neither Brian and I believe in it. But the truth is this. LeBron is famous for his, as I like to put it, passive aggressive behavior. And none of that was helped this offseason with the opt-in and the statement from Rich Paul, and then LeBron often being conspicuously silent in moments where he has in the past chimed in on social media. He was chiming in on basically everything but the Lakers during the offseason. And these are the type of things and this type of chatter about LeBron right now and people reading in the worst motives. This is what happens when you are constantly inviting people to read into messaging that you may not be sending out. You can't have this both ways. And again, neither one of us is even saying that is what LeBron is doing right now, but he has created an atmosphere where this will happen because he very willingly invites it.
And I think it's worth reminding people, and look, if anything, I am, the people who watch this show regularly, the everydayers, we thank you very much. There are people who leave comments basically every day calling me a LeBron honk and all of these things. So, if you're going to categorize me on one side or the other, I am too pro LeBron for some people. I think he's pretty good at basketball, but this is one of those things. It's worth reminding people. He started the off season with, we're watching, we're paying attention. That's we're getting near the end. I got to keep an eye on what the Lakers are doing here. It's not, as Brian Windhorst noted on ESPN radio this morning, it's not us speculating. It's what Rich Paul said.
Right. Exactly.
And then, at media day, he was like, I'm excited to work with Luka. What gets me coming back? All that stuff. It's like a full season of Luka. All that, said all the right stuff. But when he got hurt again, what resurfaced was while I'm out, I'm going to be watching again and I'm going to be doing that stuff. And so when you go to the game and they're getting their asses kicked and you're just sitting there, like you said in the first segment, a wax statue from Madame Tussauds, he knows.
Yes.
He knows the reaction that this is going to create. And there are times when it's I agree, where even if he is kind of trolling a little bit and it's go touch grass, where I agree with him, this ain't one of them. You know what it means if you sit there, you don't communicate with a single teammate on the bench. You're sitting next to your kid half the game, at least give him some fatherly advice about, So yeah, this, if he wants this to not be a talking point, he knows how to fix it.
And look, he may want it to be a talking point.
I don't think it's in LeBron's best interest to make this a story, to keep this.
I don't think it is either.
To keep this something people talk about for the next however long.
I think he'd be majorly misplaying this if he does.
Yeah, it is in his interest to just kind of squash it quickly. And we'll see. And I think the closer he gets to playing again, particularly if the Lakers are at the very least, somewhere around 500. It's not a disaster, and the season is still very fixable. Some of these things will change, but it's not. I don't think this is a road he wants to go down. So
the last thing I would say, though, in LeBron's defense, in terms of that report about him observing the team while he's out, seeing how things are going and how it might affect his next move, he'd be doing the exact same thing if he was playing.
Of course.
But I'm saying I think people have forgotten that part of it.
Well, but that's why you and I, when Rich Paul said that stuff at the beginning, we're like, obviously. And when when it was reiterated when he got hurt, the answer was obviously. And it's like, it's not something we would have spent a lot of time on. Like, oh my God, what are they saying? Because like we've broken this down and explained why we don't think this threat is, what it used to be. Even while the relationship may not be perfect, we would continue to ignore it. When he sits there like that, it takes that and it makes it a story. Now it's like, oh wait, but remember what his team was saying, only, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and so this isn't us, like reading tea leaves and connecting dots. This is us, the royal us looking at, there's this guy sitting there. This is the stuff he said, so it really is up to him to kind of show that this isn't a story. And he doesn't do that with texts or Instagram posts that say, geez, guys, go touch grass, to use the expression again. He does it by engaging like he normally does in games he doesn't play. Nobody's asking him to do stuff that he doesn't. These guys been in the league for 20 something years. When he doesn't play, he engages with his teammates. That's been the pattern.
I was going to say, and then we can quit on this, but one game of this type of body language, whatever the body language means, if it even means anything at all, grand scheme of things, not a big deal. But if it continues on for another 5 games, 10 games,
it's a thing.
It could start to become something that the rest of the team is like, yo, what the hell, man?
It's a thing. It's absolutely a thing.
Yes.
You and I are not overly dramatic. We do not turn things into things unless we really think they're things. That would be a thing.
Yep.
Anyway, Locked On Lakers on YouTube. Plenty more. The Lakers are, like you said, going to practice on Thursday, so we'll have more to get you ready, more analysis of Tuesday, more to get you ready for Friday. For tomorrow's show. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel. See everyone tomorrow.